Alstom South Africa has been awarded a $5.8 billion contract to supply passenger trains in a 10-year deal. One of the biggest government deals ever awarded by South Africa. Alstom will build 3,600 new coaches to help overhaul the creaking rail network in our biggest economy in Africa. That's what PRASA CEO Lucky Montana had to say on the funding of this deal.
It's going to be funded from National Treasury, as you are aware that they've given us prior to us going out and we issued prior to our request for proposal. The National Treasury gave us a 40 billion rand affordability limit to say that you have to operate within that. Of course, this is 51 billion rand, which means for the next 10 years we'll need an extra 1.1 billion rand to be able to do that. And then before we conclude the contract, because for the next 6 months there will be a lot of negotiations and us finalizing all of these issues. So we'll be engaging with National Treasury.
Well, Ian and Mohammed, people say we journalists know a little bit about everything, and some uncharitable people say we know nothing about anything. But there are some areas that one takes a bit more interest in than others, and one of mine is railways. And I've always been sceptical about this build program, Ian, because I don't believe, firstly, that when the trains come, that the traffic is going to be there, because they've been losing traffic. So must we be positive or negative about this? Is this real, firstly? Secondly, what I'm not clear on is there's suburban trains and their long-distance trains. Now, the suburban trains is undoubtedly still a market. Long-distance trains, I don't know if there's going to be a market by the time they get the coaches. It's not clear in the story which coaches are being referred to.
If we're looking for the best benefit to the infrastructure of the country, we need trucks, we need cargo carriers. Now, we don't know what that balance is going to be, but we must also remember, they're talking about a large part of the build program being in South Africa. Maybe 2 or 3 decades ago, we actually built a lot of our rolling stock at a company called Union Carriage and Wagon.
That's quite in Nigel. Yes.
That's right. And a lot, the ability could still be there. There hasn't been such huge technological developments in railway carriages, so we may be able to cope with quite a lot of it. Where I think the interesting thing is going to be is in the funding program.
Well, Mohammed, this is the thing, and when you look at National Treasury, tax revenues are going to be down.
Yes. The
deficit's rising. Pravin Gordhan's going to start looking for places to cut. Now, they're all very excited about what's been allocated. That can change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a couple of things need to be taken into account here. One is that we need to build capacity in our economy, and that's what's behind, for example, this huge push you've seen from Transnet in terms of upgrading the infrastructure, but then also when it comes to passenger rail specifically, and then going back to the points you made earlier, there's almost a psychological shift that needs to occur in South Africa that incentivizes or shifts people away from one person per car onto public transport. And that's only done if you have a reliable public transport system that services all the areas that need to be serviced. Now, if you look at the existing rail infrastructure, especially in the older parts of the country, it's very sound, it's very extensive. So the upgrading of the carriages, I think, certainly a positive for South Africa, but there's also a psychological shift that needs to occur on behalf of the commuters in order to make this viable.